Um, got it. What's going on? Oh, there you go. Well, thank you for tuning in. Wanted to talk about mindset today. So I don't think it showed on the video, but this light just fell on my head, which may have thrown my mindset off just a little bit. And I was thinking about that this morning when I came in and did and was trying to get the sales meeting slides onto that computer, and the thumb drive was like 2 megabytes shy of what it needed. I felt myself starting to panic a little bit because it was like, the sales meeting starts in 2 minutes. So anyways, a lot of the stuff that I've got here today is from Ninja. So if you've been through Ninja, I recognize some of this, but I wanted to read this because I think this is a great way to get started in the mindset zone. And it's by a guy named Stuart Emery. It's called Mastery. So I'm just going to read it. So it says, mastery in one's career and consciousness growth simply requires that we constantly produce results beyond and out of the ordinary. Mastery is a product of consistently going beyond our limits. For most people, it starts with technical excellence in a chosen field and a commitment to that excellence. If you are willing to commit yourself to excellence, to surround yourself with things that represent this and miracles, your life will change. When we speak of miracles, we speak of events or experiences in the real world which are beyond the ordinary. It's remarkable how much mediocrity we live with, surrounding ourselves with daily reminders that the average is the acceptable. Our world suffers from terminal normality. Take a moment to assess all the things. Let's see, mute real quick. Take a moment to assess all the things that. All right, just muted everybody real quick. Take a moment to assess all the things around you that promote you being, quote, average. These are the things that keep you powerless to go beyond a limit that you arbitrarily set for yourself. The first step to mastery is the removal of everything in your environment that represents mediocrity, removing those things that are limiting. One way is to surround yourself with friends who ask more of you than you do. Didn't some of your best teachers, coaches, parents, etc. do that? Another step to the path of mastery is the removal of resentment toward masters. Develop compassion for yourself so you can be in the presence of masters and grow from the experience rather than comparing yourself and resenting people who have mastery. Remain open and receptive. Let the experience be like the planting of a seed within you that with nourishment will grow into your own individual mastery. You see, we are all ordinary, but a master, rather than condemning himself for his ordinariness, will embrace it and use it as a foundation for building the extraordinary. Rather than using it as an excuse for inactivity, he will use it as a vehicle for correcting, which is essential in the process of attaining mastery. You must be able to correct yourself without invalidating or condemning yourself, to accept results and improve upon them. Correct, don't protect. Correction is essential to power and mastery. Is there anything that jumps out to y'all that are online or in person in this? What's that? Removing mediocrity. What else? What do y'all in the Zoom world? What jumps out at you for y'all in this for what you're hearing? Don't be shy. Teddy, I know you got one. T. Davis, you got one.
What?
Deidre's joined.
Yeah. I think it was on your, it was on the next slide. Or was it the next one or the last one? Just that we're all ordinary, right? Like, I mean, it's really not about having all the right stuff, if you will, or being born into the right pedigree, or having all the perfect gifts and skills. It's about committing to excellence in that and working towards that goal and end.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I would even argue that sometimes, being born into something can actually harm you, right? I mean, some of the most influential people came up from nothing, right? And they had their own challenges and their own issues growing up, but they weren't, they didn't have this feeling of maybe expectation around them. But so anyway, so I agree with you there.
I'll plug a book right now that I'm reading or listening to an online book of Will Smith. I think it's just called Will. If y'all aren't reading or listening to that, it's fantastic.
Is it good?
It's so good. I'm shocked how good it is. It's really, really good. It speaks to this stuff. So it's a good book to kick off the year.
Yeah, he's an entertaining dude. All right, so this is a fun little game. So if you've taken Ninja, you've done this before, but let's take 60 seconds and see if you can count the number of F's in this paragraph. So don't worry about that F or that F, but just right in here. See if you can count them.
Below. I guess at 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
What'd y'all come up with?
25.
24. I had 24.
I got 32.
29.
32.
Uh-huh. You know how many there really are? 36.
Oh.
What?
Every time I do this, I never get to all of them. So of is a common one to forget counting the F and of, right? Because it sounds like a V when you're reading it. And then things like forefathers, where there's 2 F's in that, or when you see 2 F's in a row, like of first. A lot of times we only count one of those. But there's 36, right? So that's just I think this game is really fun because it reminds me that whatever you focus on expands. Now that you're looking for them, I bet if you recounted them, you probably get it right because you're really, really honing in on it. But so much of what we have at our disposal is in front of us every day, right? There's an abundance of business. I was talking to an agent a few years ago, and they said they moved here from Chicago, and she said, I think I want to focus my business on trying to get referrals from people, from other realtors in Chicago. And she hadn't been a realtor in Chicago, but she knew a few. And immediately that sounded like, what does that sound like to y'all? Sound like a good idea? Sounds like a lot of work. Sounds like it was expensive, a lot of work. How do you maintain relationships from, however many hundreds of miles away that is? And so I started talking to her and I said, where do you live? Oh, I live in this new neighborhood. Okay, how many people are in there? Well, there are a lot of people that are just moving in. All right, so it's a new community, great opportunity. What's your, what do you like to do? Well, I'm on the PTA at my school, yada, yada, right? I helped redirect her to start focusing on the things that are actually in front of her. And she started having a ton of success with what was right in front of her, with all those F's that were staring her in the face, rather than trying to go out and look for the stuff that I think she initially first thought. So a lot of that has to do with mindset. It has to do with the fact that we can, if we retrain our brain to understand that there's an abundance of business out there, that it really is right under our nose. You've ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Remember, he says life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. So don't forget to look around. So what is mindset? So mindset, it's quite literally setting of the mind. Ultimately, it's a lens or a framework where we look through to view the world. It's a frame of mind that orients us to a particular set of associations or expectations. It's a way of simplifying the infinite number of potential interpretations of a situation. So when that light fell on my head, I could have been like, oh my gosh, it's a sign, it's not my day. I could have, gotten frustrated, gotten angry. And I felt that, right? I felt a little frustrated. It was a little scary. It was kind of funny. It was a little embarrassing, a little bit of shame. So any situation that we're in, it produces a ton of feelings, right? And so those feelings ultimately come from whatever our story, our past experience. And a lot of times when we have we hear something or see something, then we have a feeling, and then we have an action or a reaction, right? But in that microsecond between the feeling and the reaction, there's a story that gets played. And so maybe that's a story that you told yourself for years or a lifetime. Or maybe it's just that day that's, a great day, or it's not a good day. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but ultimately everybody has a mindset. And I think, in doing some research on this, there's people out there that say you've got to have a success mindset or a good mindset or a bad mindset. But I think, a mindset is what it is. It's just your way of viewing things. So if you haven't read this book, it's a good book by a lady named Carol Dweck. She's a psychologist who wrote a book called Mindset, and very, very well written book. The Audible version is not as, sometimes the readers, whoever reads it I feel like that makes a big difference in Audible. So you can try it that way, but if you want to read it in person with the good old fashioned, dead trees on paper, I think that's a little bit better. But one of the things she talks about is growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And so growth mindset is a belief that there's not just this set path, right? It's not this, if you're thinking of it in a religious context, it's not predestination. It's not this belief that I am here and this is, whatever happens is meant to happen, and I have no power to control any of it, right? The growth mindset is more of a free will belief. It's more of an idea that you can control the outcome with whatever situation you have. And so it makes sense hearing that, but it's really hard to do, especially if you've told yourself, if you've got this story that goes on in your subconscious or your non-conscious brain over and over again, that really controls that lens through which you view things. So a few quotes that she puts in here in the growth mindset. Failure is an opportunity to grow, right? I can learn anything. I can learn to do anything I want, which you pretty much can. I've learned crazy things on YouTube, and it's amazing, the information is out there. So challenges help me grow. My effort and attitude determine my abilities. Feedback is constructive. It's not somebody being mean to me. It's somebody being constructive. It's to make me better. I'm inspired by the success of others, and I like to try new things. A fixed mindset might, looking at some similar approaches, failure is the limit of my abilities, right? If I don't do something, that just means I'm not meant to do that. I'm not good at it, and I ought to not try that again. I'm either good at it or I'm not. My abilities are unchanging. I can either do it or I can't. I don't like to be challenged. My potential is predetermined. When I'm frustrated, I give up. Feedback and criticism are personal. Asshole. Right? Don't talk to me that way, Whit. I stick to what I know. This is, and I don't know if you can see this, but this says, it's kind of tiny, but it says challenges. So the fixed mindset, right? You avoid challenges, you give up easily. You see effort as fruitless or even worse, and you ignore useful feedback, and you're threatened by the success of others. If we flip back to this mastery piece, another path in the step of mastery is the removal of resentment toward masters, right? Watching other people be successful can sometimes make you feel less than in whatever, whether it's real estate or whatever it is. Social media amplifies this, obviously. You see people looking like this perfect family or this perfect whatever. And it's, I think it's a little bit of a farce, but that can, if you have that fixed mindset, then you believe, well, that's just who they are. They're better at that than I am, and I have no capability of growing. Whereas a growth mindset, the success of others gives you the opportunity to find lessons and inspiration. Let's see if I can. Zoom into that real quick. So you know, see a little bit better. Find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. And that's one of the things I love about Villages. There is a ton of collaboration here. And so if you can have that growth mindset and be able to really embrace success of others, learn from them, I mean, the sky is ultimately the limit for what you want to do. So let's start this again. I want to talk about our brains. Brains are fascinating to me. We all have one, and there's a lot of science and a lot of medicine around the rest of your body, but there's still a ton that's not known about our brains. So I'm obviously not a brain scientist, but some of this is from Ninja, and so and it really got me intrigued about just learning about our brains. So Ninja says, based on they sum it down to 3 sections of your brain, or ultimately like 3 brains, right? They call it your conscious brain, right? That's the things that you're aware of. I'm aware there's windows in the room. I'm aware there are people in the Zoom. I'm aware I'm up here. There's your non-conscious brain, which is constantly recording things. And then there's your creative non-conscious, which is that little voice. You know the old the things with the little angel and the devil on your shoulders, and they're telling you one thing or another. That's part of your creative non-conscious. So those parts of your brain are there, whether you want them or not. Most of us are aware of our conscious brain, which is our awareness. But all the things in your non-conscious are what's stored. So this, anything that's happened to you, any experience you have, if you had a failure and something else reminds you of that, your non-conscious is going to be in there saying, "Yep, that reminds me of that time I screwed up." And then your creative non-conscious is saying, "Don't do that again. Don't do that again. Don't do that again. You're going to mess it up again." Right? And then that ultimately impacts our actions. So this little boat, if you're on autopilot, it's just going to keep going straight, right? And so that's what most of us do. We're old enough that we've gotten our patterns and our habits in a place where it's hard to change. They're just on an autopilot, and that's not necessarily a bad autopilot, but that just is an autopilot. But if you want to grow, you got to be able to take the steering wheel and figure out how to turn it and where to drive. So autopilot it drives your self-image, the way you see yourself. It drives your self-esteem, which is the way you feel about yourself. And it drives your self-talk, which is what we say to ourselves. It's that little angel and devil, right? Talking to you on your shoulders. So Ninja talks about this results formula being your thoughts, beliefs, actions, and results, right? So your thoughts control your beliefs control your actions, and then ultimately your actions drive your results. And there's the old expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. I think so many of us know what we need to do, or we know something that works, but there's that gap, right? And it usually has to do with, okay, I have a thought, I have an idea, and I need to take action. And I know if I take action, I'll get results, but there's something that stops us between that action, between the thoughts and the actions, and it's in that belief section. And so those beliefs are deeply rooted and buried into your non-conscious brain. And so retraining that can be a challenge. But the cool thing is it is possible to do. And I love this stuff. And it's really fun to almost trick yourself into retraining your brain. And you kind of do have to trick yourself. And so we're going to talk about how to do that, but a little bit more on the science of it. One of the challenges is you have your vision of where you want to be, and then you have your comfort zone of where you are, right? That's the homeostasis, that's that autopilot. And so whatever you're used to seeing, whatever your kind of your mindset is ultimately that's what you see, right? Who's gotten a new car to them in the last couple of years? Anybody? All right. So when you got that, so Trisha, you got something. So when you get that new car, it's a certain make, model, maybe a certain year, color. It feels pretty unique to you, right? And every time you walk out, you see the car, you get into it, you drive away, and then you walk out of it, and you try to look back and remember, where did I park in the grocery store parking lot? And then you walk out and you see it again. So you're constantly training your mind. That's my car, that's my car, that's my car. Next thing you know, you're in a parking lot and you're opening the door and it's not working because it's not actually your car. It's just another one that looks like you. And then you see another one down the street. And then you start seeing another one and you're like, why does everybody got my car? That's obnoxious. Why did everybody do that? But those cars were there. You just didn't notice them before because there's so much information coming into our brains. And so there's this part of your brain called your reticular activating system, or RAS. And so that is, it's kind of like your filter, right? And so you ultimately, we don't normally, your brain is processing all this information, but it's filtering out the majority of what it is, so that if there's a tiger in front of you licking its lips, your brain doesn't really care if the sky is blue or if the trees are green, right? It's focusing on the tiger. Because at some point you learned deep in your non-conscious brain that tigers might hurt you if they're out of a cage and licking their lips in front of you, right? And so you're gonna have a lot of feelings and you might run or you might freeze. I don't know what you'll do. Hope that never happens. But your reticular activating system is this concept of what you focus on expands. And so the good news is what you focus on expands. The bad news is what you focus on expands. And so whatever your belief patterns are, and again, those are rooted into all of our brains since birth, really since before we can remember. Those are really hardwired in, and they're difficult to change, but they can be changed or altered or skewed a little bit. And so we're going to talk about how to do that. So programming and reprogramming your software, which is your non-conscious brain. So how do you reprogram those stories, right? So one way is just socialization, right? We talked about in that mastery is surrounding yourself with people that, that expect more of you than you do, right? Friends, mentors, media, books, thoughts and gratitudes. There's tons of research over the last decade or so about gratitude. And that's why we talk about gratitudes every sales meeting, because if you can, this is mind blowing to me. Your brain is actually not capable of anxiety and gratitude at the same time. It doesn't work. So if you're feeling anxious about something, which is a normal feeling, right? It's a good feeling, right? If the tiger's in front of you, fear is a good thing. It's going to save your life probably. But fear can also get in the way of a lot of things that we deal with. But if fear is imposing a threat on that progress of you getting from, your thoughts to your actions because of whatever belief system you have or your mindset, whatever the mindset is, then try gratitudes. Middle of the day, middle of a situation, just really stop and try to be genuinely thankful for something. And I will guarantee you that you'll actually feel a lot better, even if just for a moment. It takes practice and it takes going through it again. Visualization, self-image, and affirmation self-talk. So we're going to talk about affirmations, visualizations. That's visualizing yourself in a certain way, and then affirmations are self-talk. Visualization, people have probably heard of a vision board. I don't think I've ever done a vision board actually, but I've done a lot of affirmations of writing those down, and it seems so hokey, but it works. So I like stuff that works. That works. So this act as if statement, right? So act as if you were, whatever you want to be. So what y'all throw out some goals of what you want to accomplish this year? Small, big, real estate, not real estate. What are y'all thinking? You want to do what? You want to read for an hour every night? All right, so that's like an activity. So what's the goal? What's the purpose of that? To get what? To achieve what?
Thoughts and gratitudes, like
Mm-hmm. Okay. So reading makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Makes you learn something along the way.
Yeah, gives you something to think about. Kind of takes you out of.
Yeah. Who else? Anybody else have any goals that they're thinking about this year? So I'll pick up that example. So I bless my mom, love her. I always thought I was a really slow reader. Like really, I was a slow reader. She used to say, well, it's okay that you're just a slow reader, you know, which is a great way of training somebody to believe that they're a slow reader. And so I never read books. As a kid, I never read books because I was just a slow reader and I knew it would take me a long time. And so it's kind of like, what's the point? And then finally, it got to a point where I was like, I don't like this because I'm a slow reader. So I want to go get fixed. And so I asked my parents to take me to some, wherever you go when you're a kid to do that. And they did, you know, some of these tests and they were like, you're pretty normal. I was like, no, I'm a slow reader. I want to learn to speed read. And they're like, I mean, you read like everybody else. And so that was nice to hear, but it also, that belief had been so rooted into me that I thought I was a slow reader. And so it's taken a long time and a lot of things like that, like you said, to retrain my brain to believe that I wasn't a slow reader. I would just read a couple of pages and then I would see a squirrel out the window and be like, I wonder what the squirrel's doing, right? And so it'd take me a while to get to figure something out. A lot of times because I wasn't reading things that were that interesting to me. So that's just one example. So I began to believe that I want to act as if I'm a reader. I want to become a reader, right? Because people talk about books, they talk about what you're reading. That's a common question, right? Hey, what are you reading right now? Right? I never had the answer to that. Like, nothing. And so I wanted to become a reader. And so that was kind of my goal and I'm imposing this on you with a little bit, but you know, that activity is, I want to read for an hour a night, but maybe you want to become more of a reader, right? So that's something I started doing. And so I had a goal of I wanted to read 10 books one year. And I got so into it, I read like 15. It was amazing. I loved it. And I realized, gosh, I think I'm a reader now, right? And so it took a long time to retrain that self-talk. But I started acting as if I was a reader by just doing the stuff, by just actually reading, and by finding ways that were comfortable to me, right? So it wasn't out of my comfort zone. I wasn't just pushing myself through these annoying books. I was trying to stay in my comfort zone and find things that were interesting to me. And then I read them and be like, wow, that's great. I'm going to find something else. Pique my curiosity. What about this? What about that? So staying in your comfort zone, but acting as if you were whatever you want to become. Substituting bad habits for good ones. Yeah. So I think that's good. This is a great quote from Helen Keller. She said, when asked, can you think of anything worse than being blind? She said, yes, being able to see, but having no vision. So that vision, that belief of wanting something more is really the epitome of the growth mindset. And so I'm not going to get into life lists a ton, but I think they're really important to do. And I think it really does put yourself on that path to having some sort of vision. And I think a lot of people believe that this idea of goals have to always be business related. I think that's complete BS. I think you can have some business goals, but I think you gotta, like, we're here on this earth for a finite amount of time, and I want to do some pretty cool things. Some of it's work, a lot of it's not. So if you want to practice a life list, you can break it down into, Ninja talks about 4 categories: to have, to do, to be, and to give. So you don't have to follow that, but you might want to have, right, a certain amount of income, or you might want to have a second home, or you might want to have 5 investment properties. You might want to go sign up on the spaceship and go to, what is it, what's the SpaceX? You might want to go spend $1 bazillion and go to space, or you might just want to, read a bunch of books. Maybe you want to be a certain kind of a parent, or a certain kind of a spouse, or a certain kind of a friend, and ultimately, to give. What is your legacy that you're hoping for? So Ninja talks about these 5 laws of success. This is from a book called The Go-Giver. It's a little red book. It's an easy read. I encourage it. It's parables of stories. But the 5 laws that they talk about are the law of value, which is your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you receive in payment. I think this is what we do every day, right? If we can add value in everything we do, if we can add more value than we charge in what we do by helping people buy and sell homes, then we will never have to spend $1 marketing ourselves in our life. Does that make sense? Right? So the law of compensation, your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them, right? So maybe you work with 10 clients in a year, and you decide you want to work with 30 clients. Well, if you do a really crappy job with 30 clients, you're probably not going to have much compensation years down the line, right? So you can scale things, but you can only scale things based on how well you're serving somebody. So we're going to talk about the 80-20 rule in a little bit. And a lot of this some of this feels like it's veering away from mindset, but it will come back. The law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. The cool thing about placing other people's interests first is then it's not about you, and then it makes it easy to kind of get out of the way of your own mindset, right? When you're caring for somebody else, when you're adding value for somebody else, as long as you can have a basic mindset of saying, I'm capable of doing this, I'm capable of adding value, then you'll be able to do that pretty easily. The law of authenticity is what we do every day. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And the law of receptivity, which is the key to effective giving, stay open to receiving. So the 5 rules of ninja selling are: show up, pay attention, tell the truth, keep your commitments, create value for your customers, and don't get attached to the outcome. What's an example where y'all have gotten hooked on an outcome for something that didn't quite work out? Transactions, right? You feel great about it. You start like dreaming about what you're going to do with all that money. Yeah. What that does, it takes you away from the actual relationship, doesn't it? And so don't get attached to the outcome. So show up, pay attention, listen to your customers. Thanks everybody for showing up. And again, listening to your customers seems like a basic principle, but I'm blown away at how many agents are so focused on listening to themselves that they don't listen to their customers. So ultimately these keys to success are your mindset, skill set, and actions, right? So getting your mindset right is the first thing. Before you can really do anything else, you got to be able to have the right mindset. So a lot of times we jump into these action ideas and then we get frustrated because we can't do them as well as we think we should be able to do them. And then we try something else, and then we try something else, and we try something else. And next thing you know, you're mediocre at a whole lot of things. You're not actually focusing on the few things that actually work. That's a lot of what 40X does, is it really helps you hone in on what your comfort zone is, where you work well, so that you can jump into that and have success. So you've all seen this, right? Is the glass half empty or half full? It's both, right? And so the scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset, it's kind of like a fixed versus a growth mindset, but a little bit different. So scarcity is the idea of just believing that there's a finite amount of business out there, there's a finite amount of something out there, and I got to take my chunk of it. Abundance mindset is this belief that there's more than enough business for everybody, and we're going to get our fair share, right? But we don't have to be upset when we don't have to resent masters for doing something that we didn't do. And so this is a very simplistic way of looking at it, but it's a very, very powerful belief. And so your mindset, I think, controls the way that we project ourselves, right? So, it sounds a little hokey, but I think we all do have this, whether it's an energy or a vibe or whatever it is, right? You've had those people that walk into a room, so-and-so, man, they just light up a room, right? You know what I'm talking about? Think of it, who can you think of that does that? You've probably got somebody in mind. Maybe it's you. Whit, you light up the room. Light up the room. That's from the day. Betty White was like that. Yeah. Light up the room. There's also those people that come into a room and you're just like, I'm gonna leave now. you don't want to be around them. There's just something about them that just doesn't kind of jive. And so much of that, it starts with mindset, right? Do they come from a mindset of love or anger? Are they a player or a victim? Or they care about others or care about themselves? And I think this is an unfortunate problem in our industry. There's a lot of people that are pretty darn confident that they're the best thing that has ever graced this earth. And so they put their face on the side of everything and do all this stuff. But it's very self-focused as opposed to other focus. And I think who I see be the most successful are people that are other agents that are focused on others, not themselves. And yes, there's some amount of self-promotion from an awareness perspective, but it truly is a mindset and a belief that the other people are responsible for your success. Yeah, being genuine. Oops. So your vibe is generated by what you're thinking and what you're feeling, right? And so again, this is all mindset. There's a great book that is an author. He's out of Nashville actually, named Chip Dodd, and he wrote this book called The Voice of the Heart. And he has a philosophy that there are 8 feelings, just like there are however many colors, 3 primary colors. There are 8 feelings, and that's it. Those feelings are hurt, lonely, sad, anger, fear, shame, guilt, and glad. Right? So there are 8 of them. What's the first thing you notice when you see that? So Witt said they're all negative except for glad. So that's usually everybody's first thought. If you read this book, you'll learn that couldn't be farther from the truth, because all of these are actually really beautiful and important feelings. Again, is fear negative? Maybe, unless there's a tiger in front of you about to eat you, and then fear is pretty good, because if you're fearless, you're probably going to die, right? I mean, there's this guy who I haven't watched this documentary, but there's this guy who free climbed El Capitan, free solo. Is that it? Yeah. So people have said it's great. I want to watch it. That guy's off his rocker a little bit. Like there's a missing part of his brain. I mean, I think there's some research on this. Like he's a little bit messed up in the head, and he doesn't have this one of the feelings, right? If you don't have any feelings, then you're a sociopath. Right? I'm not saying he's a sociopath, but he's missing some fear, right? Because normally any normal person would have a healthy respect for climbing hundreds of feet in the air with no ropes.
They talk about that. It's why
Yeah. Fear can be a learned behavior, but it's a feeling. It's one of the feelings, lonely, right? Being lonely is ultimately gives us that feeling, reminds us that we need to be in a relationship. Relationships are what drive our business. So lonely is a great feeling. Being hurt, also a really good feeling, because when you're hurt, you don't want to get hurt again. And so it reminds you, hey, maybe I shouldn't do that again. Or if you start learning about kind of how we can control that mindset, maybe something that was hurtful to you is really more based in shame or turned into shame. And so then it's this, again, self-talk of like, nope, I'm not going to do that again, because I tried an open house or whatever it is. I tried working with a certain type of client, and who's smarter than me, more successful than me, and that was a bad experience, right? So I'm just not going to do that again. That's that self-talk that's going through your head. Guilt can be a really good thing too, right? If you are a jackass to somebody and you feel guilty about it, it's probably a good thing, because then you can actually be genuine in a relationship and apologize. So all that being said, is those feelings help generate your vibe, and that's part of your mindset. So how important? It's pretty important, right? And so there's this energy quadrant, right? Positive energy, low energy. As agents, we tend to need to be in that high positive state, right? We're there as a guide for somebody, and if we are just an Eeyore, then we're not that attractive to be around, right? And Ninja has this belief of attract, don't chase. So if you want to be attractive, you have to be in that positive environment. Of course, if you don't naturally feel that way, then how do you get yourself to that in a genuine and authentic way? So ultimately, the world is what we make it. You can be a player, and we want to be players. We want to have this abundance mindset. So again, 4 ninja principles, and then we're going to get in a little bit more of the how to reshape your brain to be able to begin to shift your mindset. 1, stop selling, start creating value, right? If you can do that, it makes it not about you, it makes it about them. Building a relationship business, pretty much the same thing. Being customer centric, pretty much the same thing. Committed to personal mastery, y'all are here, so you're committing yourself to personal mastery already. I always thought this was neat too. The ninja way is to ask, not tell, to pull, not push, to probe, not to pitch, to consult, not to present, to solve, not sell, and to serve rather than sell. So as realtors, we're often expected that we have to do everything, right? I mean, there are not that many jobs where if you're a solo agent, you really are, you're the paperwork person, you're the this, you're the that. But so much of we do, if you're all familiar with the 80-20 rule, Pareto's law, 80% of what you achieve in your work comes from 20% of the time spent. So 4/5 of your effort is wasted. That is so depressing. 4/5 of our effort is wasted. Hopefully this is not part of your effort that's wasted. But 4/5 of what we do is wasted. What do we, like, think about yesterday or any given day over the holiday? What do you think was productive time, whatever productive means for you? Maybe that was time with friends or family versus wasted time. I spent hours cleaning my house one day, kind of avoiding my kids. I was annoyed at them because they were just playing on the game thing. And I'm scrubbing the baseboards. My wife's cleaning the shelves, right? We could have hired somebody to do that, but it felt good. But we spent a lot of our time, and I would argue that a lot of that was probably wasted because now it's dirty again. Or it seems like it is. But 80-20 examples, right? 20% of motorists cause 80% of the accidents. About 20% of beer drinkers drink 80% of all the beer. 20% of people who married are involved in 80% of all divorces. I thought about that for a minute. I was like, I thought it was 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Then I started doing some research, and it's like, no, a lot of people get divorced, get remarried, and then divorced again, and then remarried, and then divorced again. So 20% of the people are actually responsible for 80% of the divorces. 20% of the clothes in a person's closet.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Of the time.
Still on
I would say
Zoom,
that's
but
pretty true.
yeah, just walk all around,
And
and obviously,
Teddy, you got that? Thanks. We spend 80% of our time and 20% of our house. How true is that? Right? If you're trying to talk to somebody about living, like downsizing, right? One of my favorite questions to ask is, hey, let's talk about where you spend most of your time in your home right now. Kitchen, bedroom, living room, yard, maybe, right? We have those 6 other bedrooms. What do you use them for? Well, the occasional guest that comes in. That's what hotels are for. We spend 80% of the commissions are earned by 20% of the realtors. 80% of our income comes from 20% of our activities. And 80% of a seller's decision to list with us is based on 20% of what we say or do. So the vital few versus the trivial many. What are the vital few activities that will give me the greatest result for the time and energy invested? And what are the 20% that will yield the 80%? What are some examples of that you've seen? Like for your FaceTime. All right, so you got 24 hours in a day, you spend 1 hour with somebody, so that's 1/24. Call it an extra hour of like communication and prep time. So that's 2/24, right? That's about 10%. Sending out personal notes. Not a ton of time invested, but huge return, right? What about y'all online? Anything you've seen, like you've seen as proof it's worked. It is less time consuming, but has a high return and a high yield.
Calling your key customers and past clients. I mean, just, it sounds so simple, but it's often overlooked.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of cold calling to me is bizarre. I don't understand it. It seems to work for people, but part of it is that they've got these like dialers that auto dial people, and they're having these zillions of conversations to try to get one bite. I would be shocked, and there's data on this, but I would be shocked. I am always shocked when somebody tells me that that's what they do, if they still do that to generate business. Because I'm a strong believer that if you actually took that same amount of time and invested into people that know, like, and trust you already, or in getting to genuinely know, like, and trust somebody outside of trying to sell them a house, you're going to have way more success, right? It's less time consuming.
And don't be afraid to leave a
20% of
voicemail, right? Just don't be afraid to leave a voicemail and just say, I was thinking of you. I drove by this and saw you, or I thought of you, or whatever. Just
Absolutely. So a lot of that has to do with our mindset, right? Getting to the belief and understanding that, hey, I don't have to do everything all the time, because some of it is kind of pointless. Some of it just doesn't really work that well. So focusing on what works is finding and doing the vital few. Again, that 40X, we talked about 40X in the sales meeting. This is a huge piece of 40X is getting to not try to be, a master of a jack of all trades and a master of none. It's trying to get become a master of a few key things that work for you, that you're comfortable doing, and just doubling down on that. And if going with people works, and it worked 3 times the last 4 lunches you went to with somebody, and you've only been 4 lunches over the last 2 months, then you're probably spending your time doing the wrong stuff. So leverage, do more of what works, avoid what doesn't work for you, and eliminate waste. This is fun to start a stop doing list. So you can look at your business. We talked about this, types of activities. What activities are you good at? Are you willing to learn? This is funny. If you don't enjoy doing the vital few, are you willing to A, do it anyway, B, delegate it to somebody else, C, hire somebody else to do it, or get out of the business, right? Because those are kind of your options. So hopefully we're all in this business because we like it. All right, so mindset hack number 1. So these are kind of 6, and then we'll wrap up with these 6 pieces. But these 6 ideas are, and there's a zillion ideas out there. I hate the things that say just focus on being happy, right? Like, come on. That sounds all good and well. It feels very elementary to me. So I like these 6. These are my favorite, but you may have others. So mindset hack number 1, become aware of your thoughts and feelings. So there was a great book called Crucial Conversations that I read a couple of years ago. And it talked about, I mentioned this earlier, but it talked about when we have a reaction, we've all had reactions that we're not out of, or maybe some that we're really proud of. When we have a reaction, it's usually based on a trigger, right? And so that trigger is something that happens, whatever that is, and then we have a reaction. But again, in that microsecond between that, there's a feeling, and then there's a story that gets told, right? Your non-conscious brain is saying, woo, I've seen this before. And there's a story that you're telling yourself, right? There's an example in the book. This guy came home, his mother-in-law was in town. He'd had a long day, and he sat on the couch, was eating some chips, spilled a few chips, and went into the kitchen to get a beer. His wife was talking to his mother-in-law, and he comes and sits down, and his mother-in-law has cleaned up his chips that fell on the floor, and he loses it. He's like, there you go again. This is my house. I can't even sit in my own couch. He rages at his wife, or maybe his mother-in-law. I don't know. Maybe she was just trying to be helpful as a house guest and do her part, right? But he had a story in his mind that got told. He immediately felt something, probably shame for being messy or whatever it was, and then had a reaction, right? So being aware of that stuff and trying to slow it down, and this is really hard to do, but it's awesome when you can do it, is to try to stop and pause and say, all right, what am I feeling? when have I felt this way in the past, i.e. what story is being told? What do I need right now? And then now I can have my reaction. And if you can slow that down, it takes a lot of practice, but if you can slow that down, then you can recognize that there's you and then there's your thoughts, and you are not your thoughts, right? So shift from being in your thoughts to being an observer of your thoughts. Developing awareness is how you begin to shift your mindset, but awareness is the first step. And awareness alone is often enough to cause shifts in your thinking without really needing to do anything. So it's hard to do, but I would challenge you anytime, whatever it is today, I guarantee you're going to have 5 or 10 or 100 things that will, one of those 8 feelings are going to hit you, and you're going to want to have a reaction in some way, good or bad. So stop, identify that and say, what am I feeling right now? Where did it come from? And is that like irrational, right? Step outside of yourself, observe it, and say, hold on, a little coffee. Observe it and say, is this how, am I acting as if, ... Am I acting as though the person that I want to be? And maybe you're not, or maybe you are, and you can pat yourself on the back. So plan your results, not your time, right? You're probably not as productive as you'd like to be. You get things done, but you're capable of more. Part of the problem is how you're planning. Creating a long to-do list and then plowing through it is not the way to increase productivity, right? That's the 80-20 principle, because a lot of that stuff on that list is not going to be ultimately that beneficial to your results. So plan the result you want, not just the time you want to spend to get there. So Whit, that was one of those things where you said, like, I want to read for an hour a day. And I backed up and I said, well, like, what does that mean? Well, 5 hours a week. Okay, well, that's a to-do list, right? So what are you trying to become, right? What's the result that you're trying to get? Well, I'm more knowledgeable. Okay, you want to be more knowledgeable. Well, that's one way to become more knowledgeable. There's a lot of ways to become more knowledgeable, right? But that's shifting your mindset and not just giving yourself a to-do list or a goal that is an activity-based goal. Does that make sense? Subtle shift, but it's really, really powerful when you can do that. Practice being your future self today. So again, this is this sort of act as if. Your current thinking is what's created all your results right now, right? To reach your goals and create different results, you have to shift your thoughts to the thoughts that you would have if you already had the results you want. So create a list of thoughts and feelings your future self would have. The secret isn't waiting to achieve results to become the person you want to become. Instead, the secret is to practice thinking and feeling as your future self now, and then you'll slowly become him or her. I'm going to read that again. The secret is to practice thinking and feeling as your future self now, and then slowly you'll become him or her. What you focus on expands. You begin to become that person, for better or worse, right? Just thinking and feeling whatever your future self wants to be. If you want to be a beach bum, then you start thinking about that, and you're probably going to become a beach bum. But if you want to start thinking about being successful in whatever your definition of success is, and you're believing that, you're thinking about, hey, if I act as if this, and what does that person think like? What does that person feel like? What does that future version of me believe? So reprogramming your brain through daily affirmations. So this is fun. Affirmations are that little voice on each shoulder, and retraining your reticular activating system to focus on what you want. So retrain, I think I meant to put retrain your reticular activating system to focus on what you want, and you'll begin seeing it everywhere. Write them for at least 30 days straight. Use the present tense 25 times each day by hand. Act as if. Create a list of thoughts and feelings your future self would have, right? So these daily affirmations are, who's done these before? Done them? All right. So it's really hard to do them for 30 days straight. I usually get through 10 and then I'm like, I got other stuff I need to do this morning, but it doesn't take that long. There's a funny story. I've told a couple of y'all this before, but yeah, Scott Evans said this. This was years ago. We went through Ninja together, and he said he was doing his affirmations, and it was like present tense. I enjoy, and it said receiving. He didn't say making. He said I enjoy receiving. Like I don't know what the number was, but it was a strong 6-figure number. I enjoy receiving X whatever by the end of that year. 25 times on a piece of paper. So he's in a hurry. He's doing it, and he leaves it out. And then he comes home and he realizes, oh, my house is clean. I had a house cleaner coming today. And like nicely organized is his little, what probably looked like a psychotic sociopath list of like, I enjoy receiving this much money by written over and over again, like, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. It's always made me laugh. So do it, try it, and stick to it for 30 days. And I think you'll be amazed at just what that one activity can do to retrain your brain and begin retraining your reticular activating system to believe that what you thought was impossible is now possible. As Ted Lasso said, I'm possible. Removing limiting vocabulary. How often do you find yourself or others apologizing? Who in the last week has started an email or a text by saying, hey, sorry, ... right? I do this all the time. I hate that I do it. I do it. I was writing this stuff a couple days ago and spent a few hours on it. And I got an email and I was like, I need to respond to that person, but I wanted to focus on this. And I think I just finished the slide and I wrote the reply to the person. It's like, hey, sorry for the delay. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? And it's really hard to catch yourself doing it. So I would say start off by listening to others. Listen for others doing it. How often do you hear others say out loud that they're bad at something? Oh, I'm so bad at remembering names. I've always sucked at open houses. I know I need to have a database, but ... right? It's hard to hear yourself say these things, but if you listen for others, then you'll recognize how often it happens, and then you can begin hearing or seeing yourself doing it. But it's hard. How do you, what if you really are sorry, right? Right? Just genuinely sorry about something and then sorry for being delayed on an email. You don't have to put that, just leave it out. Less is more. And if but we do those things hundreds and hundreds of times a day. And again, your reticular activating system, it's like the car. I see my car everywhere now, so much so that I just went and tried to get into the wrong car in the parking lot, right? When you believe on that, when you're constantly apologizing or constantly, shaming yourself, or shooting yourself. Somebody said recently to me, they said, don't shoot all over yourself, it stinks. Don't shoot on yourself, it stinks. It's like, it's good. So yeah, I should do that. Yeah, I should do that. I should do that. That's a very, very shaming thing. Take that out of your vocabulary. Create an alter ego, number 6. So think about, this is similar, but it's just a little bit different way of looking at it. Think about the person that you want to be that has the results you want. What do they act like? Where do they spend their time? What time do they wake up? How do they speak? How do they present themselves? How do they react to tense situations? By practicing being your alter ego, you begin to adopt new habits and beliefs in a state of pretend without allowing negative self-talk to get in the way. Your beliefs will eventually lead to your results. So this alter ego is a little bit of a different take on it. Acting as if it's kind of the same thing, but the concept of this that I thought was neat was they really are pretending. You're sort of stepping out of yourself and you're saying, I'm going to pretend to be this. You can do it in the privacy of your own home, and you can say, I'm gonna write an email as if I was, some rock star. I'm gonna make a phone call as if I was this other person. And you can almost do it in a state of pretend. Things are very safe in a state of pretend. Ninja talks about when you're writing a contract for somebody, or you're talking to somebody about a house, about what they want. Use the state of pretend. If you could wave a magic wand, right? Take yourself out of reality and put yourself in a state of pretend. If you could wave a magic wand and have just the house that you're looking for, what would that look like, right? If we were to fill out to buy this house, we can go through a state of pretend. We would put your name here, put the offer price here. We would put the closing date here. Next thing you know, you filled out a whole contract. It's not scary anymore for them, right? So these pretend states are really, really powerful because it takes a lot of the fear away, and you can put yourself into a different bucket. So remember, your thoughts control your feelings, and your feelings control your action. And there's a story in there somewhere, and then your actions determine your results. But please don't just jump into actions because you're going to find yourself frustrated. If you've got the wrong mindset, you're just trying to do the actions, then you're just going to say, well, you know what? There it is again. I'm just a slow reader. can't do it. And then as Senator Lapp always said, Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. So don't forget to give yourself a pat on the back. Do you all have any other questions or thoughts or anything to add before we wrap up? Do you have anything? So hopefully those are some good little tactics. I'm gonna
Really
send these out
grateful. I know for all of us out in Zoom land, thank you so much, Zach. This was really a fantastic presentation. And if you would send me the slides, I'll be sure to post these in the agent toolkit under the classes on mindset. And so you'll have access to all those. And of course, the recording will be posted as well for you all to view. And you can have access to that through the new Village Education online website. So if you have any questions, needs, or anything, feel free to reach out to me or any of the broker team. But Zach, thanks again. Everybody give him a hand, please, for just a great
Well, thank you all.
piece.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, well, thank you all for your
That's great.
time. That's what's most important. So that means a lot. So thank you very much. All right, go out there and count how many times you say you're sorry or listen for other people to do it and then tell them it's okay.
If you forget that, just count the F's. Just think if I'm counting the F's.
Just count the F's. Yeah, go back. There are 36 of them. I actually did I put it in a Word document and did command find or whatever. Because I counted them and I kept getting different numbers every time I counted them. I'm like, I need a computer to do this. So, all right. Well, y'all take care. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks, Zach. Bye-bye.
See you later.